You're making more money than you spend, but now what? Do you stash it away? Do you invest the money? Do you pay off debt? If you feel stuck about what you should do next, you're not alone. And the way that you handle your money from here can make or break your future financial success. That's why today we're breaking down LaunchFi steps 3 through 6, so we can make sure you're working towards your goals from a firm financial foundation. But if you're among the 62% of Americans that are spending more than you're making, then you're going to want to start with my previous video, LaunchFi step 2. For everyone else who's sticking around, welcome. My name is Jack Clemens. I'm a certified financial planner and the founder of Clemens Financial. I also created LaunchFi, which is a system designed to help people meet their personal goals of fulfillment and meaning without putting themselves at financial risk. And we're continuing with that series in this video, which looks at LaunchFi steps 3 through 6, helping us to build a firm financial foundation so we can launch ourselves towards those goals. So on that note, let's hop into step 3. Step 3 is where we're going to build a starter emergency fund of 1 month's expenses. This is your financial buffer. It's a small safety net that's going to protect you against going into debt in the case of something like a flat tire or an unexpected medical payment. Now, I'll be honest that I do like a lot of what Dave Ramsey has done, although certainly not everything. And one of the things that I think he gets wrong is his baby step 1 of saving just $1,000. Setting a strict dollar amount like $1,000 doesn't adjust for inflation or recognize the fact that everybody's financial circumstances are different and different people are going to need different dollar amounts for their base emergency fund. If we adjusted that dollar amount for inflation from when Dave Ramsey first proposed it back in 1992, today it would be closer to $2.3 thousand. And even then, it wouldn't make sense that somebody who has $10,000 a month in expenses would have the same $1,000 emergency fund as somebody who has $2,000 a month in expenses. So I fixed this problem with my LaunchFi step 3, which says you need to have 1 month of your personal expenses saved for an emergency. That way the dollar amount is personalized to you and it's going to automatically increase with inflation over time. Now at this point you might be asking, why just 1 month's expenses? The reason for this is we want to balance security with momentum and efficiency. A lot of generic financial advice will recommend a 3 to 6 month emergency fund right off the bat, but saving 3 to 6 months of your expenses can be a really big undertaking. And candidly, it isn't the most effective use of your savings, even if it is a necessary safety net. Having 1 month's expenses set aside for emergencies is going to cover you in a lot of different emergency situations and protect you from having to go into debt to deal with those. And if you've already done LaunchFi steps 1 and 2, you should already know roughly what 1 month's expenses looks like and how much you can save every month. So looking at your savings rate and your average monthly expenses, you should be able to see how many months it'll take you to save up this emergency fund. Also, you might want to consider setting up automatic transfers from the account where you get paid to the account where you keep your emergency fund. Ideally, you're going to store your emergency fund somewhere where you can access it anytime you need it, but also where it's growing interest. So that's usually going to be a money market fund or a high yield savings account. Then we're going to move on to step 4, which might be a bit controversial. In step 4, I'm going to ask that if it's available to you, you put enough money towards your retirement account to get your employer's match. And if your employer doesn't offer you a match, that's okay. You can skip to this timestamp to go on to the next step. Also, if you don't know if your employer offers a match or not, then you can talk to your HR or benefits department and they should be able to help you figure that out. If your employer does offer a match, you want to put enough in your retirement to get that full match, whatever that might be. This is essentially a 100% return on your money just for contributing. It's one of the best deals on your money you can get, and that's why typically it's going to be better than paying off debt or investing. And this is going to be true unless you have an extremely high interest debt, something like a payday loan where interest is over 100%. Contributing money to your retirement account in order to get that employer match is also beneficial because it's usually going to be in a tax advantaged account and you're saving money for your future self, which is a big deal, especially in places like America where our older population are also our most impoverished. So in this step, make sure that you're contributing enough to get the full match offered by your employer. And after that, we're going to move on to step 5, which is where we attack your high interest debt. When we talk about high interest debt, people are all going to have their own opinions on what that means. So just as a rule of thumb, let's say high interest debt is 10% in your 20s, 20% in your 30s, 30% in your 40s, and so on. High interest debt is a wealth killer because it compounds interest against you instead of investing, which compounds interest in your favor. And when you're tackling your high interest debt, the most efficient way to do it is to attack it by highest interest rate to lowest interest rate, regardless of your balance. This might sometimes be called the avalanche method. And the idea is you're going to target the debt with the highest interest rate, pay as much money as you can towards that while still paying the minimums on all other debt. When you do this, you're going to pay off your debt faster and save more money in interest payments you didn't have to make than you would if you used the snowball method popular with Dave Ramsey. But if you're already familiar with the snowball method, or if you're already currently using it, then definitely stick to that method. I just want to make sure that you can do this consistently. And keep in mind, this strategy only applies to your high interest debt, so we won't use this for lower interest debt, and typically we don't apply this logic to housing. And once you have paid off your high interest debt, you want to make sure you're not slipping back into using it. So if you are still using credit cards, continue to pay them off every month in full. If you do have a financial emergency during this step, then use your 1-month emergency fund to cover that expense. Don't put it on a credit card or any other form of debt. Just make sure once you've paid off that expense that you pause your debt payoff and rebuild that emergency fund until you get that back to 1 month's expenses. Then you hop right back on the debt payoff strategy and keep working it from there. And what's great about this step is once you've paid off a debt, you no longer have to make minimum monthly payments to that debt, so you have more money every month, building up your savings rate even more for tackling the next step. And that next step is to finally get your emergency fund to the full 3 to 6 months of expenses. This is what takes you from being able to handle a minor financial setback to making you financially bulletproof. And to be more specific on how much you should save in this emergency fund, it's kind of a 3 to 6 month range, and it's going to differ from person to person. But generally speaking, you can err towards it being closer to 3 months if you have good financial security, like a 2-income household, very stable employment, like if you're a tenured professor, or if you have a good safety net, like if you're living with family. However, you may want to save closer to 6 months expenses if you only have a single income, if you have an unsecured job, or just a job where your income varies month to month, or if you're self-employed or have major health concerns. And you might be wondering why we do this step last if it's the step that's supposed to make you financially bulletproof. That takes us back to trying to find balance with our finances. In this case, that means balancing wealth creation with the need to be secure and protect yourself against risks. Having 1 month's expenses in your emergency fund is fine when you're getting started, but as you mature financially, the types of risks that you will be exposed to are going to be higher. So you'll need to offset those higher risks with more financial security, in this case in the form of your emergency fund. And once again, a big part of the security of your emergency fund is that it is accessible, and ideally that it's growing by some interest rate. This usually being a high yield savings account or a money market fund. And with that fully funded emergency fund, now you're protected against a potential job loss, extreme medical event, or really most emergencies that you could experience without having to go into debt to pay for them. These savings also provide you the stability that you can use to start pursuing your dream life, be that changing careers, continuing your education, investing in real estate, or launching your own company. So, let's recap. Launchfi steps 3 through 6 look like this. Step 3 is saving your 1-month emergency fund. That's your financial safety net. Step 4 is getting your employer match. That's your free money. Step 5 is paying off high interest debt, which is draining your wealth. And step 6 is to fully fund your emergency fund to achieve full financial security. By following these steps in this order, you're setting yourself up to be able to confidently and securely pursue your dream life. And funding that dream life will be the topic of a future video. So comment what your dream life would look like, and I might just use your dream life as an example in that video. And if you liked this video, then please do like the video and subscribe for more personal finance, education, and insights. Thanks.